Hi, Professor. This is Kiana Jones, and this is my second assignment. And the topic that I chose to do was the development as a racetrack, as I found that to be particularly interesting in Barbara Rogoff's book. So first, I'll just kind of explain the picture. So there's a racetrack. There's 4 different cars. The one that's closest to closer to finishing is the one that gets the equation correct, and the other 3 are following behind. And there is a car that's last, whose tire was flat, which I'll explain that in a bit. But what this picture represents is the U.S. development that children who pass milestones of infancy and childhood earlier will be successful in adulthood. While I feel like that can be true, I don't think that's necessarily just the answer. A reason that I feel that way is, again, I want to point out the car with the flat tire. I feel like there's just so many things. There's circumstances, there's environment. There's so many things that can affect a person at a certain time, but that's not to say that people aren't resilient and they can't overcome barriers, or it can't say that their development can take longer in different stages, in like a different stage. So one of the cool stories I wanted to point out was my youngest daughter. She struggled with reading. She was just starting school when the pandemic began for COVID. And I think part of it was not having that in-person learning experience. And that's kind of like the time that you get the foundation. But what I'm trying to say is she was able to focus and get assistance with reading. And before that year was over, she became the top of her class. And she's a good reader and tends to always be the top of her class. But that's just an example, I feel, of how circumstance can affect that. And that doesn't necessarily say how you'll be, how successful you'll be in adulthood. One of the cool things I thought the book pointed out was it said in some communities, infants will learn when they are ready, if not pushed against their will. I kind of feel like that's true. I feel like the U.S. style is linear. It's saying that you have to be a certain way in order to be successful. And I just feel like there's so much more to people. I feel like we're so complex. We learn at different times. But I don't think that's necessarily the answer. Anyways, this was a really interesting topic, and I enjoyed doing the drawing. And thank you for listening.